In 2019, I read a statistic that the average CEO reads nearly 60 books every year. So for my 2020 New Year's resolution, I decided to do just that. In December 2020, I shattered that goal, reading well over 90 books. And for 2021, I'm on track to read more than 100. Here's how and why I made it happen. And if you stick around for the end, I will share my favorite way to read as many books as you want, absolutely free. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Reed, and I'm a mechanical engineering student at Georgia Tech. On this channel, we'll discuss the different strategies for students to increase their productivity, expand their comfort zones, and live happier, healthier lives. Let's get started. If you're anything like me, it's often hard to find the time to read books, what with work, classes, and trying to maintain some sort of social life. So before we can discuss how I read 100 books every year as a college student, YouTuber, and aspiring entrepreneur, it's first important to discuss why you should read. First, reading is proven to make you smarter in more ways than one. Not only does it introduce you to new ideas, but it also has a profoundly positive impact on your brain. A 2012 study out of Stanford University found that leisurely reading provides a truly valuable exercise for people's brains and increases blood flow to the head. And at the same time, it can ease tension in your muscles and heart, helping to reduce stress and revive the body. But I personally believe that the most powerful motive for reading is the content itself. Anytime an author writes a book, it's because they believe they have some profound lesson to share with you. Take Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. In it, he distills down his life's work researching sleep science into a couple hours of reading that you can take with you anytime. Simply put, each time you read a book, the author is gifting you information it would take years to gather on your own. It should be a no-brainer to use as much of that material as possible. As my buddy Socrates once said, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall come easily by what others have labored hard for. So if reading is a cheat code for life, how do you know which codes to use? The classic divide is between nonfiction and fiction. Productivity Puritans will pride themselves in reading only nonfiction books, but to be completely honest, I have no idea how they do it, and I do not for 1 second recommend it. For those of us with normal attention spans and willpower, we can get just as much out of reading fictional stories. In fact, of the 90 books that I read last year, more than half of them were fiction. Bottom line, read whatever you want to read. Don't let me or anybody else tell you what you should or you shouldn't be reading. Although you should always be open to recommendations. Just read what feels right and what brings you joy at the end of the day. And one last thing, don't worry about finishing every book that you start. Some books just straight up suck, or maybe they're not your cup of tea, and that's totally fine. Alright, so let's talk about how to read. At the beginning of 2020, I was full on team paperback. But on one incredible, life-changing day, I listened to my first audiobook. Now look, I know the arguments. I don't process the writing as much unless I'm looking at the words. Audiobooks are just way too hard to follow because I can't even move around. I get it. I said the exact same thing before my first time. And wow, what a first time it was. A 12-hour car ride, listening to the latest James Patterson novel. I mean, the book wasn't that great, but the experience was life-changing. The fact of the matter is, you can retain just as much while listening to a book as if reading the words on the page, with two crucial points for audiobooks. First, an audiobook does not require your full attention. When was the last time that you read a hardcover book while cooking dinner or going for a run? Unless you're Elon Musk, probably not recently. Reading requires you look at the page, pulling away your entire attention. But when you're listening, you can do so much more. Suddenly, you can consume content while on a walk, your daily commute, or even while taking a shower. Hey, don't judge me. It's an absolute game changer. And not just that, but you can consume content much faster when you're listening as opposed to reading. In the US, average reading speed is 200 words per minute. For most first-time audiobook listeners, they can listen at about 300 to 400 words per minute. And after a month of listening to audiobooks, I was listening at well over 600 words per minute. That's crazy. Suppose someone told you that you could finish your math homework 3 times as fast. If you seriously want to read 60+ books a year while still maintaining other portions of your life, you're going to have to become a pro at listening to audiobooks in your spare time. Here's what my schedule sometimes consists of. I wake up and go for a run. Audiobook. Once I get back, I'll take a shower and cook breakfast. Audiobook. Watch a class? Audiobook. Grab lunch? Audiobook. Okay, you get the point. But I don't want you to feel like you have to do that all the time. There are days or even weeks when I take a break from reading altogether. The key is to always come back and to try to stay as consistent as possible. But if you can average 1 to 2 hours of listening every day, you are well on your way to 80 plus audiobooks for the next year. If you stuck around this long, prepare yourself for what is possibly the greatest app that I have ever discovered. As a college student, it is entirely unrealistic for me to pay $10 to $15 every time I want to listen to a new book, especially when I'm reading 90 to 100 of them every year. But fortunately, there's an app that lets you read almost any book you want absolutely free. Introducing Libby, an entire library in your pocket. All it takes is a library card, and you are essentially given access to all the ebooks and audiobooks in your public library. It works just like an in-person one. You can check out any books or audiobooks that are available and place holds on ones that are currently checked out. When you borrow an audiobook, you can listen to it in the app, and ebooks can even be exported to Kindle or your reading app of choice. Using this app, I can easily ensure that I have books in the lineup to read, explore new and popular books to borrow, and most importantly, read high volumes in a way that is absolutely affordable. I'm honestly blown away by how game-changing this simple app has been in my life. This video isn't even sponsored by them. I just really love it. Alright, now that you know why, what, and how to read 60 plus books every year, the only thing to do is get started reading. A lot of people have this mental model that getting through a book is some significant undertaking that takes a lot of time and effort to get through. But with audiobooks and speed multipliers, you can honestly listen to most audiobooks in 3 to 4 hours of spare time that you find throughout the week. All that it takes is for you to get started and start listening. It's honestly much easier and more productive than binge watching the latest series on Netflix. And with that said, thanks for watching. If you learned something from this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, where I post weekly videos just like this one to help you become a more productive, well-rounded human being. And if you're interested in the books that I'm currently reading, feel free to check out an episode of my weekly podcast, The Conversation Lab, linked in the description. I'll see you next week.